The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
You guys, there we are. All righty. Okay, guys. So, good evening. Happy Friday. So, I'm here with some huge news. If you remember, if you watched the show, if you don't, you've probably followed the Delphi case following Libby German and Abby Williams from Delphi, Indiana, who were murdered in 2017. They were 14 years old. There has been nothing. There has been just tiny inklings of leads here and there to meet just a dead end at every single turn for the last 5 years. The case is not cold. It has been actively pursued. The law enforcement agencies, you're talking city, county, state, federal, all levels have been pursuing this, and they've all been incredibly tight-lipped, which is probably to the benefit of the case. But because of that, we haven't had any details at all. Today, this evening, in fact, someone named Richard Allen has been brought in and detained in connection with their murders. Again, he has not been charged. He has been detained, and this is huge. So they're going to be holding a press conference on Monday. Not sure why the wait, unless it's because we might be waiting for some other agencies to come aboard and be a part of this press conference. But let's do a little recap of the case, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we know about Richard Allen. So I've been following this case for years, and you can find multiple articles and podcasts and such about it. Abby and Libby were best buddies, and back in 2017, they asked permission to go to the Monon High Trail bridge. So that is out in like a walking path, a trail area. A lot of people go walk their dogs, enjoy just a nice afternoon there. This bridge was an old railway bridge. It was pretty dilapidated, and nothing was at the end of it. It was in a high, like on a steep terrain. So to get down from that, you would have to go down this ravine, so to speak, and there's a river down below to set the scene. So if you took the walking trail all the way to the bridge and then just took the bridge out, you would have to turn around and come back. At the end of the bridge is where the trail ended. Okay, so what we know, I think the haunting part about this case has been that Libby was snapping photos and Snapchats and things on her phone just before their disappearance. And because of that, we actually have a tiny, grainy video and audio clip of what has always been considered the suspect. They call him the flannel man, the plaid man. It was a man wearing a flannel plaid shirt or jacket. There was some discrepancy about if what you could see in the video was kind of his brown hair that was kind of shaggy, or if it was, in fact, kind of a newsboy cap. That's been in discussion back and forth. There were a couple of different sketches that were drawn that looked incredibly different from each other over the course of the investigation. One was younger with not much facial hair. One was a bit older with much more facial hair. So they've just been going off of what they know. We know that Libby said Libby gets her attention drawn. She looks up. She starts filming this man. So all indications are that maybe she felt uneasy or something. She wasn't filming. There was nothing else on her phone of her filming any other people on the trail. And what we got as the public in 2017, immediately after their murders, was, excuse me, a 3-second clip. And all you heard was down the hill. And it's chilling. It's chilling to hear him. He's got a deep, gravelly voice. The audio quality is not ideal, but you just hear him say down the hill. Now, 2 years later, they released one more word, and it just said, guys, down the hill. And that's it. There is a bit more to that video and audio recording. We've never been made privy to it. Law enforcement has said at this point that there's no reason, there's nothing on it that would do anything to produce leads in the case for us as public. And so they've also not even let the public know how these girls were murdered. I think there are a lot of assumptions. I think a lot of them are probably correct. All we do know is that they finally told us a couple of years later that there was a lot of blood at the scene and that the bodies had they believed them to have been staged and potentially moved more than a couple of times before they found them the very next day. We know that whoever did this took 3 souvenirs. All they'll tell us about that is that it's not what we would expect. It's not what we would think would be the souvenirs, but we don't know what they were. Uh, excuse me, I think that we can rule out gunshots and these kinds of things at this point. I don't think anything like that is what occurred. They don't tell us anything else about what the bodies, how they were found. We know that they investigated someone named Ron Logan, initially an older gentleman whose property butted up to where the bodies were found. He was found to have lied on a polygraph. He lied on his alibi was incorrect. But if you listen to our show when we first brought it up, there's a lot of reasons people can lie about things, and it doesn't make them a murderer. They can have been into some other shady stuff and don't want to be found out about, but that doesn't mean they did this, right? So another very interesting lead was a guy named Keegan Klein who lived at home with his father, both of which are questionable characters. Keegan, even more so. Keegan is currently serving time for multiple counts of explicit child pornography. Also, for falsifying identity. So Keegan was the one, if you remember, that he catfished with a picture of a police officer who's also a model in Alaska and called himself Anthony Schatz. And so he's been in trouble because just after this happened, a girl down the street, another minor, identified him as someone who found her on Snapchat and tried to engage with her under this name, Anthony Schatz, with this fake picture. That was clearly not him. So he has his own issues going on. He was a pretty strong, well, in public opinion, he was a pretty strong lead for quite a while. And even most recently, just a few weeks ago, police were searching the river again, kind of in front of his home. So it kind of looked like things were trending in his direction as well. Now, we don't know. We don't know if the new person that is being held, the only person that's ever been held in connection with this murder, we don't know if he and Keegan might know each other. There could be a connection there. We don't know. The more sinister and really dark things to think about here would be that Richard Allen, the man who is being detained, is married. He does have a daughter. And we have a picture of his daughter on that same bridge 1 year after these murders were taken. If he is in fact charged, if he is in fact found guilty of this, then that's just a horrifying thought, right? So moving forward, we're going to have to keep our eyes on it. We're definitely going to watch the press conference on Monday. I want you guys to tune in. We will definitely on Tuesday have any updates that came from that press conference on our Tuesday night shift show on Failure to Stop. Please comment, send us information, anything. I will say I've been in contact with someone a little bit who has a little bit more information on this case, and he was not super surprised to hear about these things that are going on. So it's just been, this would be, I think Eric mentioned it and said it well when he said this would be just second to like JonBenet Ramsey's murder being solved, because this has stumped everyone and everyone in the town. They still have family around in the town. It's a pretty small town, and for this to have developed zero leads, or I should say that as far as the public knows, right? We know that law enforcement has held this really close and been really tight-lipped about it. Again, I think to the betterment of the case, to be more successful there. Another thing about Richard Allen is that he actually lives within 1 to 3 miles of where the girls' bodies were found, and he's lived there this whole time. So, man, it's bizarre, but this is really, really big, and I really hope that this provides some closure eventually for some of these families. And these are pretty much the details we have right now. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of false pictures being shared right now because it is new, so people are just kind of looking up his name. I was guilty of that initially. They're doing some side by sides of the initial sketches with men who are named this. So this guy is being currently held in the Carroll County Jail. Does anybody have any questions for me? I mean, that's about it for the updates because we really just don't have a lot of details other than that, you know. Let's see here. Hey, everybody. If you guys don't usually listen to Failure to Stop, we have 4 shows a week, and I am on the show that we call Night Shift with Eric Tansey. You can find us at Eric Tansey Official, Failure to Stop, or Andrea Up Late. Does anybody have any questions while we're going? Hey, Wolfpack. Hey, everybody. What are your weekend plans, Mur? I have some pictures. If you go to Andrea Uplate on Instagram, I do have a couple of pictures. I'm going to delete one. One was the erroneous picture that I mentioned that came out initially. It's a side-by-side of someone who is already serving time with the initial sketch, and they look identical. So that was an easy grab, and I realized quickly that that was erroneous, and people started talking about that on all these little web sleuth type things. Was the landowner involved? Rick asked that. No, in fact, he's been cleared of everything. I think he has since passed away, if I'm not mistaken, but he was cleared of everything. He was not honest with a lot of things, but they never were able to tie. And they did an extensive search warrant at his land, property, his cars, etc., and were never able to find anything. Says, I wonder what's the reasoning behind him being moved to a state facility? They say for his own safety. So keep in mind, again, this case has been unsolved. It's been heartbreaking. I mean, nothing short of heart-wrenching and discouraging for everyone, because I know that in this small town, they thought this would be solved by now. And so you've got to think, even, the inmates there, wherever he was initially taken, they moved him quickly to a state-run facility for his own safety. What else you got, guys? Wonder with him living so close why he was never questioned or suspected before, unless he was and we didn't know. That's a great point. So, guys, keep in mind that law enforcement and investigators, they work with what they have, right? They look for things, they find as much as they can. So we don't know yet. I hope that we'll get some of these answers on Monday. Maybe all along this has been someone, or soon after, someone that they've been following, right? And we don't know, and it wasn't our business or right to really know, and it could have inhibited the case. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe something really just broke. Maybe they did just have a lead. It says, let's see here, what you guys got. Weekend plans, decorating and making Jell-O shots. Well, have fun with that. Yeah, Ridge, thank you. Everybody hit the like button if you're watching. That'd be great. Dead Leg Media says, and always some info is held back that only the suspect would actually know too. Exactly. And so that's first and foremost why we don't know the cause of death. I think a lot of people, I hate to, since we're talking about children, I have a tough time speculating on air about that kind of thing. But the way they talked about the bodies, the way they talked about just how disheartened they were with how bloody the scene was, I think that a knife or something like that would definitely be something that we're all looking at. We don't know. I heard a more recent update with a police officer involved in the case that happened last year. And he just said, at this point, to say that, he said, we know things about the way they died that only the person who did this would know, right? So it makes sense that the public doesn't need to know. And then you have the people who will confess to things they didn't do, right, etc. So it's great. Tansey Fam says, do you think Tansey is hot? I have a picture of Eric. He's actually at a Halloween party at his distillery in Clayton, North Carolina at Instill Distilling Company. Try out their rum. It's the best. He and his wife are going as a super duper emo couple tonight. So on a side note, Eric, if you'd like, I'm happy to show them the picture I just got of you. It's wonderful. Let's see here. Maybe he will Epstein himself. Well, I would absolutely like to see justice first. I would like to see if he did this. I would like to see him be charged with it first and convicted before anything happens to him. I think for the family that would be the best thing. What are you guys up to tonight? Oh my goodness. Tansey is a short ass hobbit. Okay. If you guys don't usually listen to us, we're pretty close with our chat members here, and they get involved in a lot of their own side conversations while we're trying to have, a very serious story. You guys, so how close is it to Greenville? Eric, how long you think that is? How long you think it's going to take to get from Greenville to your distillery? So Drew Breezy says sometimes people get arrested and their DNA hits the database to match DNA from the scene. Great point, Drew. And I've not seen, so guys, also if you listen, Drew Breezy is on Failure to Stop with us as well. So retired police officer who has amazing insight here to a lot of the things that we do and that we talk about. We do know that DNA was found on the scene, and that's another thing we don't know. They've not told us what kind of DNA from what they found it. So we just know that it existed, and that's about it. So, but that's a great point. I've not seen if they've mentioned it. I've not seen that he was arrested, and then that's how he was further implicated, potentially for sure. We prefer to be referred to as the wolf pack. Just chat. LOL. All right. Sorry, Deadleg. Thank you, guys. Did you answer the question, Eric, on how far away Greenville is from Clayton? Because without Googling it, I have no idea. Does anybody else have any questions about the case? All right. So if you again, if you're not watching tonight, if you listen to this later or whatever, we'll come back to you. We got a show on Monday. Eric does a show on Tuesday. We have night shift. On Thursday, they got last call. On Friday, we've got the flagship show that is, I forget which case this is. JV. Sorry, guys. Listen, JV. It's the Delphi case in Delphi, Indiana. It was the two girls, Abby and Libby, that were found underneath the Monon High Trail bridge with the audio recording of Down the Hill. I hope that clarifies which case this is. Drew is asking, are there any other similar unsolveds in the area? No, there were a couple of questionable things around that time, but nothing that wound up having the same victimology, if you will. It didn't point to being necessarily the same suspect if that was the case. That was kind of what I thought. I felt like a crime like this is either not the first time somebody's done it, or it damn sure won't be the last. But then to find out that he, again, if he is ultimately charged and convicted, this Richard Allen is married with a kid. We know these things can happen all the time. Davey says, please cover the backpack killer, Ivan Milat. Okay, I'll look into that. J God's Grape says, what is night shift covering next week? You will know when I know. No, I'm joking. None of your business, J God's. Just tune in. You'll see. You'll like it. I promise. Hey, Ridge, thank you for the super chat. We got $10. What does it say for? Andrea, don't get discouraged. Wolfpack. Okay. Hey, Wolfpack. I'm not discouraged at all. I'm happy to see you guys. We don't usually get a twofer. Usually I only get one night a week. I don't know. Eric, scoot over. I might like this. He's going to let me get too comfortable here. The unsolved disappearance of Teresa Dean, Bosco. Yeah, I'm not sure that I know that one. I'll have to look into that. I'm not super sure. Says, do you think the daughter was friends with the victims? Hydro Man Blue says, I didn't even consider that, Hydro Man, but that makes my stomach turn. You know what I mean? That's a really good point. Ugh. That's horrible. Horrible to think of. do the update over. The update, is that we have someone who's been apprehended and held in connection. Again, guys, in 5 years, this is the first time that anyone has been in. They've not even said this is a suspect. I mean, like I said, the closest we got is Keegan Kline being arrested for child pornography, and I think we all thought and hoped that maybe that was a way to get his foot in the door to jail while they continue to investigate. So I was blown. You could have blown me away with a feather when I heard that someone was being detained in connection and it wasn't Keegan. The fact that it's a name that we've never, ever, ever heard of. I mean, my goodness. Oh, Davey. Davey just moved to Nashville, and I'm from that area. He's asking where the best barbecue is. You know what? Nothing. Let me tell you, I'm actually from Franklin, so I'll send you a text. But there's a lot more places in Franklin that you'll want to go to. I promise you. Promise. Ivan Milat is a creepy story. I'm trying to decide how he compares to Catherine Knight. They're both Australian. Then we definitely have to cover that. You guys, my first podcast, it was simply very terrible. I mean, my performance, not the story. You can go back and like it, though, if you'd like to. I'd like that. But was about Catherine Knight. She was the first woman that was ever actually sentenced to life in prison in Australia, and it essentially it begins with her being this feisty kind of argumentative sex pot and ends with her husband's head in a pot, him skinned in the kitchen. So you can go back and watch that one, or just maybe listen to it. It was tough. It was a good show. I know they're not giving us much, but are they pretty sure this is the guy? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, Rick. I think they've waited 5 years. I would assume they're pretty sure this is the guy, right? If they're bringing him in, we've talked about it before. There's no statute of limitations in murder, so it doesn't matter how long it's been since the crime occurred. And I think that they've done the right thing by waiting until they feel pretty sure. So I can only assume they feel incredibly sure. And I would also like to know, he worked at a CVS. Tansey fam is piping in. Jay Galt's Grape says that Catherine Knight looked like Mickey Rourke in drag, or just like Mickey Rourke. Drew is saying if they are releasing details of someone they have detained, you can put most of your money on this being the guy. I agree. I mean, 5 years later, they're not going to detain someone and give a name and say there's going to be a press conference and not be as certain as they possibly can be. Right? Oh my goodness. And now I keep thinking about Hydro Man's question about if his daughter was friends with Abby and Libby, because oh my goodness gracious. And Abby and Libby were in all other accounts, they were good girls. They weren't in trouble at school. They weren't they just kind of did what a lot of kids do, and they always took turns sleeping over at each other's homes and this kind of thing. And that day they had the day out of school, and that's why they were there during the day on the bridge. Deadleg says they could be holding him on unrelated charges too. Of course they could, but they've specifically come out to say that they are holding him in connection with this murder, and that's the first time they're saying that. Sorry, your chats are going fast, guys. Did they know all along and intentionally let us think it could be other people to make him comfortable? I don't know that they intentionally tried to. Maybe. I don't know that they intentionally tried to make us think it was other people. I do think it's very possible that he was on their radar, but we just didn't know that. I think for reasons that we've talked about before. The name is Richard Allen, C. Sadler, 3275. Richard Allen is the name, in fact, of the man being detained. Yeah, no, Hydro Man, it does. It doesn't just say someone. We you can find, unless they've changed it, but I can't imagine. I even tried to find, because they initially said that his Facebook account had some disturbing timestamps and pictures. I think what they were referring to is his daughter's picture on that bridge 1 year later. But by the time, and it wasn't long, it was within minutes of me finding out, like, of them breaking this news that he was being detained. I tried my best to get into any of his social media, and by then immediately it was gone. So they took that down pretty much immediately. So I wasn't able to see for sure. The first two names, he was definitely on their radar. Richard Allen, are you saying that Jay Galt's Grapes, what are you saying? That Richard Allen was definitely on their radar? Says, I hate that they dropped this on Friday and like have a good weekend. See y'all on Monday. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure. Maybe Drew or someone else, Tansey, can pipe in. I'm not sure why the need to tell us if we're waiting until Monday or why we're waiting until Monday. I'm sure they have their reasons. I just always assume there's reasons for it that I don't know. I'm not sure. Anybody wants to pipe in on that? Why we would wait and have the press conference on Monday? I thought that maybe it was to gather some more things to say, and maybe, like I said, this reached city, state, county, and up to federal level. So we've got a lot of people involved that that might be off somewhere else doing other things that maybe want to be a part of this press conference, and maybe they're working other cases and have to come in town. That's just me spitballing, but that would be something that I would maybe wonder about. Yeah, it says probably want to give the time for the family to be updated before the release. Well, before the press conference, I guess you mean. They absolutely they let the family know for sure before they sent this news out to the public. And we've had some communication from the family. They've reached out to say thank you, and just that they're praying that this leads to something that would be some closure here. It says waiting until Monday to let the media from out of town be present. That's Perla. Potentially, Drew says garner chatter in the community, up the tips on the guy. Okay, that's a great point. Just like we're doing right now, right? We're doing exactly that. We're talking about it, and we don't live there. So if we did live there, I can imagine once you hear that name, right? Like maybe that's the guy that you work with, or you guys go to church together, or work out at the gym together, or whatever. Now people are going to start talking because we have a name. So that's a great point, Drew. Thank you for that. And then maybe some information that, just unintentional information is slipped that could be very helpful to gathering some more information that they need. Oh my goodness. It says might want the weekend to put together their statement. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of this. People coming in town, putting together a statement, and then, like Drew said, probably just getting some more chat. Well, man, guys, it's been good. Again, I don't know. Like, does Eric need to sit beside me every time? I mean, he started the show. He brought me on, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't hate this. Maybe like a different background, and like, I think I could do this solo, right? You think? Drew was saying I'd watch his family in case he gives them instructions from jail to bury something. Are you talking like a weapon? You think he's had that the whole time? I'm talking to Drew Breezy. Again, he's part of our network on Failure to Stop. And he has some pretty great insight, being retired law enforcement himself. Oh, evidence. Yeah, just any evidence, I guess you mean. So the initial thought, souvenirs. Again, if you guys didn't catch the beginning of this, we knew from the get-go very little about the actual crime scene, but we do know that the murderer took 3 souvenirs, and again, they've said that it's not what we would assume. I think we would assume things like underwear and different kinds of things like this. They say it's not what we would assume, but they've not told us what it was. So maybe souvenirs or evidence is what he might need gone. But they've said from the beginning, whoever did this had to have discarded their clothes, burned them, trashed them, something, because they're obviously going to be covered. They were going to have a lot of blood on them. That's about as much information as they gave us there. Bosco's saying, yeah, hide evidence. That's why I said they'll hold him and make him sweat. So let me ask you guys who know more about this than I do, or just your opinion. I mean, in 5 years, do you think, well, okay, outside of souvenirs, I think you would hold on to souvenirs because they are just that. That's why you take them. Outside of that, in terms of evidence, is there any reason, do you think he would have held on to souvenirs evidence or the weapon or whatever for 5 years? In 5 years, you don't think he would have felt brave enough now to get rid of it or safe enough? Rick says if it's this guy, I hope he gets everything he deserves. I do too. Maybe they're going to interview him and see if they get something out of it that they want to share to the public. You mean for their press conference on Monday? Yeah, potentially. That could potentially be it for sure. Thrills, Hydroman, are you saying thrills as in like hanging on to this stuff brought him thrills? That's very likely. I mean, yeah. Eric is saying this dude's sick. If he took his daughter to the site, he sure did. Yeah, he did. And got pics of it and put it on his social media. I mean, it says, weren't police seen in the water there recently? Yes, C. Sadler. So that was an update I did recently on my Insta about they were actually seen in the water near where Keegan Klein lives. So you'll have to, if you hop on right now, I don't, without like an in-house producer, these kinds of things, I'm kind of just flying solo. So it's not as easy for me to get to you the pictures, but you can easily Google this stuff at some point later when you want to look at actual maps. We have a lot of aerial maps and things like that. And you can map out where Keegan Klein lives, where Richard Allen lives, and where the murder took place. Now, just recently, we had even federal level law enforcement was searching the river, dragging the river in front of Keegan Klein's house. That's another reason we thought he was going to be maybe further implicated in this case. So he was even moved for extra questioning during that time. While he was moved out of the facility he's being held in currently for child pornography somewhere else, while these lead investigators were in town. So all of that made it very interesting and really made it look like Keegan might have had something to do with it. That's why I say just a thought, but maybe while he was being talked to and they were searching the river, is there a potential link between Keegan Klein and Richard Allen? I don't know that. That's sheer speculation at this point, but it is something that I'm curious about. I'd like to know. Hydroman saying, I wonder if he was just downstream from the murder site. Maybe the two are connected. Exactly, Jake Gotts Grapes. That's what I was just talking about. So I guess this clears Garrett Kurtz. That woman is nuts. She was harassing them about these murders. Weren't police in the water? Yep. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I just it's kind of like I feel like these babies became part of my family. Thanks for answering my questions. Yeah, Rick, I don't even know. I don't even have a lot of answers right now, right? I'm just kind of going off of what we're learning. But I I'm with you there. I don't live anywhere near there, but I have 2 children myself, and this has always just been very bothersome that there's been nothing as far as we knew of. So I just, again, this goes back to, we talk about this a lot on the show. Somebody can be, a super shifty, shitty person. They can do a lot of things that doesn't make them always a murderer, right? So even, for instance, the neighbor whose land butted up to the murder site, Ron Logan, he was dodgy. He lied. He failed a polygraph. He literally got caught lying on his alibi, but he was also able to be cleared without a doubt. They cleared him with no questions asked. So he was shady. I mean, he didn't want police digging around. He felt like he needed to lie about where he was, but these things don't make you a murderer necessarily. So, and I'm saying that because in my head, it's easy to get pigeonholed, right? And it's easy to start going down a path. And I try so hard as we're talking about these things not to do that. But I was having a really tough time thinking that it wasn't Keegan Klein. And so maybe that's why I'm still, almost mentally trying to make a connection between Keegan and Richard Allen. But I do think it's interesting that they were searching the river. I feel like we'll find that maybe that was more than coincidence, that they were searching the river in front of Keegan's house just weeks ago, and now this guy is arrested. I don't know. It's hard to say. What do you guys got? You have any more questions about this? Or comments even? Just comments? I'll read your comments. Wolfpack, thanks for keeping me company on this Friday night. Do you guys want to see a picture of Eric being emo? Because I feel like that'll keep us going, right? Yeah, okay. You know, in all seriousness though, we talk about these kinds of cases a lot. I want to go back. My boring dash cam video says I like cheese. I too like cheese. Corn Pop was a bad dude, said this one bugged me. Yeah, man. I mean, we're all saying the same thing. This one's tough. Are you going live Monday after the press conference? Tansey fam. Yeah, let me see what time that's gonna be. I'm happy to go live after work that day. Absolutely. I'd love to do that. And we can talk all about it, talk about that press conference. It says that is that a grow light back there? And are you growing illegal substances? It is not. I wish desperately that it was. It's an aloe plant and some little backlights here. Emo Eric. Yeah, well, you know what? We're gonna put that one on Instagram. Don't you worry about that. So again, that's it. You can find us at Failure to Stop, Eric Tansey Official, Drew Breezy, Andrea Up Late. Any of those links will get you back to the podcast. We're not ever gonna put a picture of Eric's banana hammock. It's not happening. It says once it mixed trial, do you think that they will ever release the rest of the video and audio? You know, people want to know what's there. I think that would be at the family's discretion. They initially said that they didn't want to release it because they didn't want the public hearing it, that it was disturbing. And then later they said that even if they did release it, it really wouldn't do anything other than satiate curiosity on our part. It wouldn't really do anything to provide more clues. I think at this point we are curious, but I think it's no more than that. I don't think it's going to give us a whole lot more. And I would assume the family would likely not want that released, but I mean, we'll see. Davey, we'll talk. We'll talk barbecue, we'll talk hot chicken, we'll talk all things Nashville. We'll talk. Do you know I've played drums in every bar in downtown Nashville on Broadway? But ask me if I play drums. I don't. My boring dash cam videos, no Insta for my old self. Do you have Facebook? If you do, Failure to Stop has a page. And if you don't have Instagram, I'm sure that you have someone who loves you who will help you figure out how to get on Instagram. It's a whole new world. Search warrant said that it was 48 seconds long. No clowns are allowed. Says, yes, you're right. And we got that 1.5 second clip. Again, we got Down the Hill, and 2 years later, we got Guys Down the Hill. Did you look further into the triple murder California furry murders? I PM'd you on Instagram. I'm curious to see what you found. That's Meat Potato 155. I haven't yet. I do get a lot of people requesting things, and I do generally look into them. Just sometimes it's not immediately between work and kids and doing the podcast itself and the case that I'm already investigating or looking into. Excuse me. I would love for this trial to be televised. Drew is saying, based on the news conference being held at the Delphi United Methodist Church, I'm going with 100% chance they have charged him with the murders. Deadleg says, Tansey plays the fiddle with the Boone Island Boys. He does. He's quite a talented fiddle player. That was before his emo days. That was before he cried with eyeliner. So if you guys want to look that up, it is on YouTube. You can see Eric in some boots with tapping his fiddle with the stick. So my boring dash cam vid says, no, I avoid those things. Discord, Twitch, and YouTube are the only social medias I use now. Well, we have a Discord, so you can find us at Failure to Stop on Discord. We'd love to have you there. That's where we show our fun old photos and things like that. Dirtbag deserves the wood chipper. I will heavily agree with you if he is in fact convicted. Drew says that Kelsey German, Libby's older sister, also mentioned the news conference and ended the tweet saying, "Today is the day," a phrase the family has often used to show their continued hoping and getting justice. Yeah, and actually Kelsey, to add to that, Kelsey is the one who drove them that day. They begged her. She was the older sister, and they begged her to drive them. They needed a ride. Neither one of them could drive yet, and so she was kind of busy going to work, and she took them and dropped them off at the bridge. So that's something that she's always, had to kind of think about. Dead Leg Discord is for the members, but there's no reason my boring dash cam videos can't be a member, right? Can you just be a member and get in our Discord? Oh, he's in there. I just don't know how to change my chat name on YouTube. Okay. Who are you in Discord, if you don't mind me asking? And Jay Galt is saying he doesn't want to watch Tansey tap his fiddle with his stick. Well, you guys, I think you've seen just about exactly that if you've ever watched even more than 2 of our shows. I mean, he's half naked most of the time. Is Jim Terry in the chat again today? No, Jim left. It was kind of like Cinderella at midnight with the pumpkin. The second Halloween was over. My love affair with Jim Terry ended, and he is no longer present or in the chats. He says he likes cheese too much. Can we start a petition to add a rape cell for people who hurt? Yeah, I'm with you. A rape cell for people who hurt women and children. That way the prisoners get their anger out and we know the suspect gets what they deserve. It's like I talked about when we spoke on Eliza Fletcher, the kindergarten teacher and young mother of 2 who was murdered in Memphis a few weeks ago out on a morning jog and was brutally assaulted and murdered. And the man who immediately was caught and convicted caught because we have CCTV footage and things and blatant evidence and all kinds of things. It was easy to find him and connect him with this. But I've said that was the case that got me so heated when we talked about this, when you talk about a rape cell and these kinds of things, because that man should have never still been breathing air. Should have not been able to see the light of day, breathing air, none of it. He had a very, very lengthy criminal history of violent crime since the age of 14. So the fact that he was in his 30s and now is charged with this murder, he should have never seen the light of day. So when you talk about the rape cell, I'm with you, but I also kind of just, I don't know, man. Like if you get convicted and we know without a shadow of a doubt that you did it, just be done. Call it a day. Moving right along. Who's next? You know what I mean? There's no reason to spend time and money on this. JV says, I'm still the #1 Hooters manager. Thanks. I do what I can. I'm juggling shifts over here. Jon Snow knows more than I do. Don't forget to like, y'all. Thanks, Ridge. Yeah, please do. We'd like to continue to do this for you guys, and we really enjoy talking with you guys and coming on. And we really enjoy talking about breaking down. I'm not one that breaks down the case. That's on some of the other shows that the other boys do. But I just like to talk about, when we talk about true crime, if it's been solved or unsolved, if it's super old or anything current, we talk about it. And it's nice because then I can bounce things off of Eric as he reacts. And then he can occasionally will decide to be serious, and I can ask him a question and get his professional opinion as a former law enforcement officer. So it's really nice to talk about those kinds of things with someone who's worked along these types of things. Have you heard of the Lucy Levy case? Nurse over in the UK charged with the murder of over 17 newborn babies. I believe, Did Ya Mom 1979. You sent that to me, correct? In my DMs? Because I remember seeing that. Death penalty cost us more than life sentences, don't they? I guess it depends. I mean, is it all going to? Yeah, I mean, to actually put them to death is going to cost a lot, but also just to keep them alive for however long. I guess that depends on how long we are, how long we have them held, right, before their ultimate punishment, or I guess their ultimate death, naturally or otherwise. The press conference will be at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. Yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing 10 Central, 11 Eastern on Monday. It says that they appeal everything, and that's what costs more on death row, from what I've heard. Deluxe Production says that. That's actually a great point. The appeals process is very costly, and when you're just life without parole, I think that the appeals are you find much less in terms of appeals than you do on death row, for sure. Says all the appeals and many years on death row probably add up. Absolutely. Yeah, guys. My goodness. Well, hey, it's been really great talking to you guys. I think I'm gonna hop off here, but it says, oh, I'm sorry. Another site posted his full name as Richard Matthew Allen, 50 years old, and has the alias of Craig Ross Renfro. He also goes by Ricky. That should tell you something, right? What are some of the other names that we talked about that were always suspect? I wonder if he's an airsoft player. Do you think? Paintball? No? Where's Lastro when I need him, by the way? Man. All right, guys. Well, I hope you do have a wonderful Friday night, and that's super depressing topic, but hopefully, some good news, as good as can be in this kind of case, right? And maybe there can be some uh I don't know, some closure for the family and honestly for this town. Like I said, they've been living with this for 5 years, and it's just, and now that we've all talked about it, the country's talked about it, I think everyone would find some peace and some closure here. And I hope this dude, if he is convicted, like you guys have said, gets every last little bit of what he deserves. And also keep in mind, and his family, because he's got a wife and at least one kid that we know of, and so I can't imagine what they might be going through at this time until we know anything further. So it's all pretty terrible, but hopefully with a little silver lining here at the end. I hope you guys have a great night. It's great to see you. We'll see you. We'll try to do a live stream on Monday afternoon, after a little bit after the press conference. And in fact, maybe it'll be good to give a little time between the press conference and a live stream, because then maybe some more information will be put out afterward that we can kind of digest before we dive in and chat about it. Also, we'll see you. Eric will be on Monday. We'll be on Tuesday night to talk more about this, and hopefully we have a couple more updates. Also, Debbie Collier, guys, the mom in Georgia. I feel like I keep coming back with stuff about her. They initially, you remember again, guys, she was clutching a tree, abdomen burned, weird Venmo payment to the daughter. Then we found out daughter's boyfriend had probation cost almost the same exact amount. They've just come out recently to say now that potentially it could have been a suicide, which initially they said this is someone close to her. This was very targeted and personal. This was not a suicide, not a kidnapping. It was a very odd scenario. They did not tell us how she died, just that her abdomen was charged and she was holding this tree after she'd gone to the Dollar General an hour away from home. Do you remember all this before the football game? And now they're saying maybe it was suicide. They're not saying for sure. So that is wild to me. That happened earlier today, I saw. So we will definitely talk more on that on Tuesday night, on top of the case that we are going to be covering. But we will definitely talk more about any updates with the Delphi case. And hope you guys have a good night. Please hit like, subscribe if you can, and catch us on Failure to Stop anytime. All right, guys. Good night, y'all.